This is my thoughts on the movie Concussion. It's a good movie. First 3 minutes actually really kind of sums everything up. My music teacher always told me every song or track tells a story, and that's what the soundtrack accomplished within the first few minutes. And that it kind of hit the peaks and valleys of Mike Webster's life as he is giving that Hall of Fame speech. Now let's talk about chronic traumatic encephalopathy. It was discovered by a pathologist named Bennett Amalu, and I'm going to explain it because I'm every bit as qualified as he is. So, this is kind of fucked up. No, this is really fucked up. So what it is this tau protein, right? And you had this guy, his name was Mike Webster. He played center for the Pittsburgh Steelers for 17 years. And he played football, obviously, before that as well. He won 4 Super Bowls, and he was this great player. Seemed like a nice enough guy, seemed like a smart enough guy. He retires, and then his mind breaks down, it disintegrates. He becomes a different person. He lives out of a truck, starts electrocuting himself so he can go to sleep. A lot of stuff that's not good, not healthy, and that's what happens. He ends up dying of a heart attack at age 50. Now, the cause of death is a heart attack. Had it not been a heart attack, he would have committed suicide at some point, I'm guessing, so in my mind it comes across as suicide. And so he's the first one, right? So he dies and his body is brought to the morgue, and then Dr. Bennett Amalu breaks his brain apart, does these tests, pays for it out of pocket, and goes to work. And what he finds is pretty scary. Through him, through a few other people that came after him, Dave Duerson, Andre Waters, Justin Isaac, the guy with the hard to pronounce last name, 4 or 5 others that ended up committing suicide. Yeah. Anyways, so what happens with players such as Mike Webster and others is, well, specifically for Webster at the center position, what happened over the course of his career was, I think he had about 70,000 subconcussive hits just from playing the game of football. And he actually, I don't even think he actually had a registered concussion. He just had a lot of subconcussive hits, which are just hits that do not meet the criteria for concussion, but have long-term effects if they do occur repetitively over a length of time. And it's described in the movie, and this is what's really messed up. So there's this thing called tau protein, and Amalu in the movie says it's kind of like you're pouring wet concrete down a drain, right? When it hardens, it's gonna mess up the drain. So tau protein is like releasing killer protein on the brain. Over time, even over decades sometimes, over a very long length of time, it hardens. And it chokes the brain, and then it messes up a person. What happens, symptoms are memory loss, lack of impulse control, dementia, aggression, depression, sometimes suicide, and all that fun stuff. And it gets worse too, because it's something that can only be diagnosed after death in a post-mortem neuropathological analysis, which means if you played football, especially if you played on the line where you got hit a lot, you, over a number of years, you could have it later in life, in your 40s, 50s, and develop these symptoms that change the type of person you are, that mess you up, but you won't know it because there's not a way to test for it, right? And that sucks. That really sucks. Yeah, so that might be about all I have to say about it. The movie Concussion and chronic traumatic encephalopathy, CTE in general. Something that cannot be tested, MRI or CT scan will not pick up on it, can only be diagnosed after death through a post-mortem neuropathological analysis. And that's the scary thing. One of the scary things. There are two things that scare me about this. The first is that it can only be diagnosed after death. Because how many things are there that you can only pick up after death? I don't know. I didn't probably look into it. I'm not a specialized physician, doctor, whatever. But I don't think there are that many. But this is one of those things, and it affects the brain, and it affects the brain in very negative ways, both emotionally and behaviorally and memory-wise and all that. So that's the first thing that is a little bit unnerving. You can't diagnose this while you are alive. The second thing that is unnerving is that it happens years after you stop playing the sport, right? So, like, let's say you're a boxer, you're a football player for a lot of years. You get a lot of these subconcussive hits, and you might not even realize the effects until a few decades after. So those are two things that really are unnerving about this. And yeah, the movie goes into further detail about the NFL, how they tried to downplay it, cover it up, of course they would, and yeah. Fortunately though, the vast majority of football players do not develop CTE, or at least they do not develop severe CTE. So genetics probably plays some factor. After seeing this movie, I thought about Mike Webster a lot. I don't know what kind of genetics he had. I don't know what his family history was. I didn't bother looking that up. Even if I did, I'm not sure I'd find that much. But, yeah. Mike Webster really kind of subs the whole movie up because he was so successful, so glorified, seemed like a nice enough guy. After he retires, he goes downhill extremely quickly, and at the age of 50, has a heart attack. Almost certainly caused by the CTE. So, Concussion, good movie. Go see it, especially if you're a football fan. Go see it.